This is the Civilian War Memorial. Its historical and ethnic significance is to commemorate civilians who were killed during the Japanese occupation between 15 February 1942 to 12 September 1945. The memorial is made out of 4 tall white pillars, which symbolizes the pain of Singapore's 4 main ethnic races as well as the locals' hope for a better future. Unveiled by late former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew 25 years after Singapore fell into the hands of the Japanese, the construction of the memorial served to remind Singaporeans of the tragic history that Singapore had once experienced. In the 1950s and 1960s, many projects regarding residential and industrial developments were begun as part of the foundation works, which required major unearthing of the ground around Singapore. In 1962, thousands of corpses, which belonged to civilians, were discovered in mass graves while the digging was ongoing. Many were identified to be victims of Operation Suchi, a Japanese operation where the military was ordered to eliminate the Chinese community who was suspected of having anti-Japanese feelings. From 21st February to 4th March 1942, Chinese males between the age of 18 and 50 were summoned to mass screening centers around Singapore, and those who were identified as citizens who harbored anti-Japanese feelings were executed with machine guns. This national monument serves to remind the future generations of the hardships their forefathers went through during the tumultuous times whenever they look at this structure. Nobody should ever take the beautiful Singapore we have now for granted, and in fact strive harder together as one Singapore. This also reminds the next generation that war is never a solution to conflicts, as it will only bring misery to innocent civilians. Strengthening relationships with other countries will be a pivotal role in bringing peace.
We will proceed to the mathematical aspect of this video. For the task, we will be proving the congruence of 2 of the 4 pillars. To do that, we will be using the SAS congruence test, which stands for side, angle, side.
As long as the 2 sides of both pillars are equal, and the included angle is the same as well, then they are congruent. Firstly, we will be measuring the vertical height of the pillars. The formula to calculate the vertical height of the pillar is y times tangent x plus the measurer's height, where y is the distance of the measurer from the pillar, while x is the angle measured from a clinometer. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so when we measure y, we will find the adjacent side of the triangle. When we measure x, we will find the angle. Multiplying y by x will then give us the opposite side, which is part of the height of the pillar. We cannot forget to factor in the measurer's height. Using a clinometer that my group made, once the measurer looks to the top of the building, we can read the angle of inclination from the clinometer. This is because when the measurer raises his head from eye level, the string with the weight will move down the protractor due to the pull of gravity on the weight. Hence, we will be able to get the angle. The angle we read was 60 degrees. We measure y, which is also the distance between the measurer and the pillar.
There were a number of identical tiles between the measurer and the pillar.
So, firstly, we counted the number of tiles before measuring the length of each one in order to find part of the final distance between the measurer and the pillar. The length of one tile was 60 cm and the total number of tiles was also 60. 60 centimeters multiplied by 60 tiles gives us 3,600 centimeters, which is part of our final distance, y. Apart from those identical tiles, there were also 3 extraneous tiles that measured 42 cm, 96 cm, and 33 cm respectively. We added all the values together and the final value of y is 3771 cm. Lastly, we measured the height of the measurer, who is 165 cm. After substitution, the answer we got was 66.9656 meters. One last thing to mention. There is a staircase below the pillar that we did not take into account at first. However, we realized our mistake and measured its height in order to subtract it from the total we calculated just now. Its height is 1.48 meters. As mentioned earlier, we subtracted the height of the staircase from the height of the building we calculated earlier on. We then rounded off our answer to the nearest whole number. We repeated the procedures once again for the other pillar, and both pillars measure 65 meters. We used the protractor to measure the angles of both pillars, and they were both 90 degrees. The final horizontal sides of the pillars also measure 221 cm each. Therefore, we have proved that the pillars are congruent. As for the floor plan, we had to draw it out on an A4 paper which had dimensions 21 cm by 29.7 cm. The Civilian War Memorial has a square as its base, and each side measures 1200 cm in real life. To maximize the amount of space for easier reading, we wanted A, in ratio A is to 1200, to be as big as possible. The requirements for A was that it had to be bigger than 1 but smaller than 21, and that 1200 should be able to be divided by A, as A has to be divided by itself to become 1, and 1200 must be divided by A to become n and form the ratio 1 to n. The number that satisfied these requirements was 20. Then simplify 20 to 1200 to become 1 to 60.